Welcome back to another video. I'm looking at the Nitecore MH12 Pro, sent in via the company for review. Just a quick overview of the spec and I'll just give you an idea of what's happening. Quick note, I am still doing torch videos and reviews, just I'm trying to be more selective with the items that I look at. What I've been finding is I've been going through models and doing videos that I haven't really been interested in, so I prefer to stick to items that I actually am interested in. We'll get on to the unboxing now just to show you what's included. I'll start off with the torch and you can see quite a different design from Nitecore, fairly compact in size. I'd also say it looks quite similar to an Olight in many ways with the power and battery indicators on the side. But there are a couple of advantages with this Nitecore. We don't have to put up with that magnetic charging, and also we don't have the proprietary battery, but it does have an Olight sort of design feel to it. It's nice to have something a bit different from the company in terms of the style. I quite like the body pattern and knurling. Here is the Type-C USB port, and an interesting thing on this is it has a sort of double finish on it. The outside is plastic, on the inside is the silicone or rubber, and that should mean that the chances of getting any damage on that are greatly reduced. One of the better port covers that I've seen on a torch. The bezel is crenulated, but not a lot, so I wouldn't expect to be smashing through a lot of glass with that. And here's the new NiteLab LED. As you can see, this is a round LED, and I'll give you a close-up shot there. This company is owned by the parent company that runs Nitecore, so they've got their own LED production now, so I expect to see a few more of these coming out in different models. Pretty typical U-style tail cap switch on this, and it does stand up without any problems. Decent feel on the switch too. I'm quite happy with the tactile feedback on that. It's not too mushy, definite firm click there. Just unscrew this and we do have the square cut threads. I'd say the threads are a little bit better than previous Nitecores that I've used. Gold plated cover conceals the spring, and the new battery, higher capacity, 5300 mAh. This is a normal battery, it's protected, it's not a custom battery, although you can use the I-series ones in there. You can see your contact point at the top of the torch. And what that means to say is you're going to have to use a magnetic spacer on the flat top cells. One will do it on this particular battery. These magnetic spacers I've been asked about before. Just go on eBay or AliExpress and pick them up. They're pretty handy to have, particularly for models like this where you're going to need to use them. There's your 4-stage LED indicator for the battery and power levels. I'll move on to the other items that are included now. Here's the user guide and your warranty card. And we also have a spare O-ring, Type-C to Type-A cable and a wrist strap. Stainless steel double clip, and it's a pretty beefy one as well. And I'll show you that, putting that on the torch. Now you have two positions where you can put this, top or bottom. Once it's snapped in place, it's not going to come off easily. You really do have to pull that off. I typically prefer the single clips, but this one's okay. It's fairly low profile. Some of them just stick out a bit too much for my own tastes. This is what Nitecore are calling their next generation holster. So instead of their standard sort of nylon one, they've gone for a sort of thicker padded material. It also has longer Velcro pads, and it does have the loop sewn into the underside. I assume it's a neoprene stuff, but it does seem a little bit denser than the typical ones that I've looked at. Decent enough quality. I think most people will be happy with this. Let's move on to the user interface now. We have half press for your momentary, full press for on or off. Single press to cycle the power levels. It's quite a light touch on this switch. You don't have to push down that hard. If you want to change between the tactical and daily modes, just hold the side switch in and then turn it on. Have to hold it in for about 5 seconds. Tactical mode, you just have one strobe and the power levels cycle down, versus the normal mode where they cycle up. Get to the moonlight, hold the switch in when you turn it on. And to get to the strobe, when it's on, hold that side switch in. And if you're in the daily mode, you can hold it down to cycle the 3 modes. If you're in the tactical mode, it just takes you to the normal strobe. The proximity sensor that they've built into the torch, quite a short range on that really. It works in the high or turbo modes. maybe about 3 or 4 centimeters away from the front, perhaps a little bit less, it depends on the item. You can turn it off temporarily. When it ramps down, just press the side switch button. If you want to do a mechanical lockout, just a slight twist on the tail or base cap, and that will prevent it from coming on. Quite fast charging speeds with this torch, around 2 amps, and it does work with the Type C to C charging. I'll just put the user manual on screen for you if you want to have a quick look through that. Pretty straightforward in terms of the UI. You don't have a shortcut to turbo. Don't know if that's going to be a problem for you. This is more of an EDC type model, so I don't find it a big issue myself, and it does remember the turbo in the mode memory. We start off with the beam shots now. You'll notice how focused it is at the lower power levels with that new LED, and it's quite a short reflector as well. And the result of that, you can see when you start to ramp up the power levels that it really does spread out quite far. That's because the reflector just isn't that deep. This has quite a big spill and quite an intense hotspot. Quick comparison with the jet beam, you can see that that's a much more of a mixed beam pattern. Pretty good pattern for what it is. Quite a bit of tint shift on the Nitecore. It does vary though depending on the model, and even identical models can be slightly different with the tint. You really do have more variation here than you might expect, but it is quite warm in the middle. You can see a sort of yellow tint when it gets more green on the outside, but it does vary depending on the output level. Have a look through some more of the beam shots and you'll be able to see for yourself, and I'll just give you a quick summary at the end of the video. Quick summary on the MH12 Pro from Nitecore. I do quite like the beam profile on this, but it is different. You do get a very intense hotspot in the middle, but it also has a pretty wide spill, which is unusual for a longer range torch, and that's obviously down to the reflector shape. I don't have a problem with that myself, it's perfectly fine, but I do miss the fact that it doesn't have a level around about 600 or 700 lumens. There is a pretty big jump there. It also gets fairly hot if you start ramping up the turbo mode. It's not quite as toasty as some of the ThruNite models that I've used, but it's definitely approaching that level. I think most people will quite like this model though. It does have a decent range, nice compact size, and I do like the body design. However, do let me know your own thoughts, drop them down in the comments section, and I look forward to making a few more videos in the next couple of weeks.